Catus Maximus here, just a little video because I like these little pliers. This is the Proto 231 adjustable ignition pliers. They're these mini adjustable channel lock or adjustable pliers are known as ignition pliers because for automotive use, the ignition components tend to be very small. And so these would be the pliers, little 4-inch sets. Now, I should say nowadays they're most useful because there's many situations, particularly working in electrical and we're dealing with terminals, where these little pliers are still just as valid today as they were of yesteryear. Just my comment is I don't like these Protos. I only paid $4 for them, and to tell you the truth, initially you'd say, wow, they seem to have a pretty decent rivet. They actually are, reasonably thick, seem to be reasonably strong, just certainly thicker, seemed a little bit heavier duty than, say, the PNC 1235s that I reviewed. But what I was really noticing about these Protos is initially I thought, oh, they are channel lock style tongue and groove rather than a double D style like these old PNCs. So the tongue and groove should be a bit stronger. But what I was noticing here is something that kind of frustrates me is on the other side of the jaw. First, there's a really big gap, so you have to actually have this pretty close to, have to have the handle way back for it to engage. So I don't know why this doesn't come around further. If we look real close, you can see nothing's been broken off here. But then the other issue I have is just how thin this little tang right here is. That is, you can see from the size of my fingers, that is one microscopic little tang. And it's also right on the very edge. So it just seems pretty weak. And if you want to know the truth, I found these at a flea market, and the guy actually had a few sets of ignition pliers, had some snap-ons that he wanted $40 for. Only wanted 4 for the Protos. I didn't ask him why. I just picked up the Protos and passed on the snap-on ones. But I was just real surprised to see that it just appears to be some kind of design issue where that just barely engages. You have to be, in any kind of reasonable area of motion. It's just barely anything there's just barely any material there. If you put any real kind of force on this, it's not going to be the handles or anything failing. It's just that this little tab is just going to break clean off. And I was pretty disappointed by it. So these are pliers I'm going to add to the collection, but I'm just not going to use them. I mean, if I'm going to have really small, weak little pliers, I'm still going to use the old PNC. These are Proto bought PNC, but these were made before the buyout. And if we look at these PNCs compared to the Protos, the PNC heads are almost half the thickness. Yes, they are a weak little set of pliers, but that's the whole point of these PNCs, is they are literally the smallest set of adjustable pliers I have ever seen. Just super thin. We can see if we put the rivets together, the head is even more compact on these PNCs. Overall, they're even a little bit smaller of a set of pliers. Obviously, the metal here is a bit thinner than it is on the Proto, but of course the Proto, it doesn't matter how thick everything is if the weak spot is this little tab here. So I was disappointed by that and just wanted to make a little video about it, saying that if I'm going to have a little weak set of pliers, these PNCs will still outdo the Proto because they will get into even tighter spaces, and they'll certainly work with wire terminals. And this double D-ring style is still going to offer, I don't know, maybe even with the thin tab here, maybe these Protos would still be a little bit stronger than these PNCs. But I think if this is going to be a tiny set of pliers, then I'm going to still go with these. These little PNCs, I think, are much better than the Protos. And if I just want a small pair of channel locks that are better, then I have these German ones. I don't know if these are Stahl wheels. I just can't figure out who had that little hex logo. But these are a German made of alloy steel. These are just a little bit bigger than the Protos. They're about as much bigger than these Protos as the PNCs are smaller. And these German ones, as we can see, is just a whole lot thicker. These would be heavy-duty 4-inch slip joint pliers. And the tab isn't especially thick on these, but it's at least a little bit thicker. And we can see that it's the way it's forged into the jaw, that it isn't right on the edge. When a piece of metal is right on the edge, then it's more likely to roll over, where this is inset a little bit, so it offers just a bit more strength. And we can see that it engages. We can see the jaw angle here where that tab starts to engage. Here's the jaw angle on the Protos. Slipping there, just the very tip of it's engaged there. Or on these German ones, there, the very tip of it's engaged there, where so you just have a lot more area of engagement. So these German ones are just shame, these little Protos, for only being a little bit larger. And for the Protos being weak little pliers, they certainly are kind of oversized compared to these PNCs, which are truly weak little pliers, with the key words being little. Absolute smallest I've seen. So anyway, that's my little opinion about the Proto 231s. If you're a Proto fanboy and you are thinking about getting some Proto ignition pliers, unless they've improved the design, I would give them a pass and buy somebody else's. Anyway, really appreciate you all watching, and we'll see you next time.